What we did in the couple of session back is we set up the Express server, and we created a model like in the Mongoose database. So MongoDB introduction and the Express introduction was done. So basically, we'll just have a recap, okay? Because we are going to see authentication. So if you guys already have gone through authentication, that is well and good. Just it will be a good walkthrough again, and with that we will be also seeing like the packages or the modules we'll be using for authentication. All right, let me start it, and then I will share my screen. Okay, so what it takes to set up a Express server, just a quick go through, and then we'll move to our today's topic, which is authentication, manual authentication, and then we'll be moving to passport JS part. Okay, so setting up the authentication, how does it work? So basically, we say that uh, so Express is here, okay, and Express basically is a framework, so which helps us to create a backend server in Node.js. Now, framework means it will give some functions. It will ask us to like follow some instructions. Let's say um, like basically like the middleware setup, the app creation, and the listening to the server. So these kind of things. So Express says that you can just get Express, and the port number, you initialize the application. So App Express, you just call the high level function, and you can listen to a port. So this is the basic server we created. Okay, and hopefully there is no change. This is always constant. Okay, so port number and the lesson part. Next thing is what we discussed was how backend will listen to the request, and for that we were saying that there will be some request handlers are same as the event listeners we saw in front end. So there was an event taking place, and according to that there was a function we need to call. So the same thing is being done over here also. So you can see that there is a URL, get data, and this is request, and this is response, and we are sending something in the response. Now it doesn't mean that it has to look like this only, okay, but just a basic. So okay, apart from the URL, we do not call it URL, we call it, how many of you know what we call the system? We call this as endpoints. Okay,
Route.
yes, correct. So route is one of the term, correct, and this final one is also called as API endpoint. Okay, so this is okay. Now it means that if my server is running currently, and if I visit this, so this is the response I am going to get. Okay, so let me quickly start the server also. So I hope if you have all right, Harijit.
Hello, sir.
All right. So, okay. So basically, I have started the server. Okay, and this is the server basics we are going through. Just before we go to the request, one more thing. So we have already started dealing with MongoDB. So if you haven't installed it yet, or if you are finding any difficulty, please feel free to ask, because that is the database we are going to use. And okay, one more question. So why do we need a database? Can someone say like why do we exactly need database? We can use okay, one solution. If you are saying that we need to store data, user data, you can use your file system also, that is possible. I can show you like how user can upload file and you can store your that in your hard disk. So why is a database needed? Anyone of you familiar with SQL or something?
Organized way, structured way, and in order to get a quick fetch the data quickly and give back the data whatever the user needs.
Yes,
For
that
that,
is okay, go on.
we use database, and it also it has also will be like what we say in cloud, right? Like
Okay, okay.
not in the local
Mm-hmm.
host.
Mm-hmm.
We can say file means we'll use in local host.
Okay, okay. Correct. Pretty much all points were correct. So if you just take a step back and talk about data structure, so when we are learning about data structure, we are mostly focusing on how we add the data, how we read the data, sorting, searching. So array sorting, we studied like how we can efficiently sort the data and all those things. So those were actually the real world example. Okay, we are going to see in the database. So did instead of doing that in our hard drive, we use database, and mostly databases are in b plus t. So that is a kind of binary tree which store the data, but that is not our point of discussion. Our point of discussion was why should we learn like database. Okay, MongoDB was chosen, and MongoDB is a NoSQL database. Okay, again, what is a NoSQL database?
No tables,
Okay.
only JSON
Hmm.
format like objects, key
Hmm.
value pairs will be there.
Correct, correct. So just a quick representation. So if you have already installed database, that is well and fine. Otherwise, let's see. So two separate things are there. Database is a separate thing, and viewing that database using a GUI tool, that is separate thing. So MongoDB is server is installed already in my machine, and there is something called as MongoDB Compass. So this software will just show me or visualize the data I'm having. Okay, so this is not the exact database. Database is already installed in a separate application. All right. So this is how database will be looking. Okay. Now no SQL databases. So table is not there. Okay, that is fine. So what? So how the data is stored? These are the databases. Opening any of the database. Okay. First thing first, to make things clear, we call similar type of data. For example, let's say there are 5 users, 10 users. In this case, there are students. Okay. So collection. Okay. So group of similar data we call as what we call in NoSQL, like what we call in MongoDB. Group of similar data we call as
Collection.
collections, right? And each collection has different objects kind of thing. What we call these objects?
Key value pair.
Okay, key value pair is one term. We call them as document, right? Okay, so we refer them as a document, and you can see that why we are using MongoDB is because it is in key value pairs, and we are already familiar with objects in JavaScript. So that is how it is going to help. So that is why this was chosen. Okay, and if you like need some more insights on it, okay, so I would suggest to go to this, not MongoDB. So you can go to MongoDB also, and okay. So we are dealing with modules in our backend application. Dealing with modules means, so for different type of work we are using different type of packages or different type of code written by other developer. So that is what we are installing in using npm. So I hope all of you are clear with npm also. So npm will help us installing other people's project. So these are just project as we are creating our own project. Okay, so we have installed something called as mongoose. So just a quick thing, mongoose is a odium. Okay, and what is a odium? Any guesses? What is an odium? Two different things, mongoose and mongodb. So these are two different things. So we are so mongodb we discussed, that is a database. No tables is there, only key value pairs is there. So suppose I'm a student, so for my name, roll number, key value pairs are there. First thing. What, and the second thing is mongoose, which is a different thing. Mongoose will help us connect our node application, the backend application, to database. Okay, so that is what we have already done. So quickly looking at the code. Okay, so we can see that there's a db which is being required. Okay, so I hope you guys are clear with the export and require things. Okay, because we are creating modular code means a divided code. Okay, so it's not that we are writing everything in a single file, we're writing in separate files. So similarly, this is we are requiring mongoose, and in order to connect to the database, this is the only syntax required. Okay, so if you are thinking something like more code, so oh, yes, this is the single line we need to connect to our database. Okay, so that's it, nothing more is required over here. So mongoose, and there is a connect method over here. Okay, so we are using this. Where did I get this URL? So this URL for localhost is always constant in case of MongoDB. It doesn't change. How many of you know what is 270.17? What is this? Any guesses? What is 270.17 localhost? And this is the same thing we have over here, 8,000.
Port
What?
number.
Okay,
Port number.
it is a port number. And why port number is required?
In order to browse, sir, for whatever we write, we could see
Okay, okay,
in website.
okay. So here's the key, guys. This is my machine. Okay, so this is our system. Okay, let's say desktop, laptop, or whatever it is. Okay, this is connected to internet. Okay, so this is connected to internet. Every time we request something, okay, so every time you send a request, okay, to internet means maybe you want any image or any PDF or any video or whatever it can be, okay. So you send a request for that, let's say YouTube, WhatsApp, whatever be the case, okay. So you send the request and you get the response, okay. So this is the system, this is your network, okay. So there is a network module which manages all these things. But the point is, why do we need port number then? So just a quick go through. Suppose this is Chrome application, okay. This is Zoom application, okay. And also WhatsApp is also installed, okay. Now Chrome requested, okay, so Chrome wanted to send a request, so it went here, let's say RC. So RC means request from Chrome, and it sent to the web, okay. And finally the response is coming from any website, so let's say YouTube or something. But WhatsApp also supports YouTube. We already know this. Okay, we can share some links and YouTube player open. It can open in WhatsApp. The point is, when the response comes in, how my system will know where to send the response? How does it know where to send the response? Because all three applications are connected to internet. So this is case where port number comes into picture. Okay? So whoever made the request, okay, so they have a port number. So this Chrome is listening to some port number, let's say X716 or something. This is listening to, let's say, 81010 something. So this WhatsApp is listening to, let's say, 8220 something. Similarly, our MongoDB is listening to port 27017 on my local machine. So if my VS code, okay, with VS code or my server which is running on 8000 is going to send a request, so it is going to send request to my network, and my network will redirect me back to MongoDB. And when MongoDB return the response, it will again return to my server. So this is why port numbers comes into play. Make sense, guys? Any
Yes,
doubts
sir.
in this? So port number is just an identification to receive the network request. That is why every backend server you create will have a port number. Okay? So every time, and all the machines over the all the websites you see, they have port number. Then you will say, sir, why don't we see port number? For example, why don't we see meet.google.port number? So they have hid the port number. Okay? So you can hide the port number when you purchase a domain. Okay, you do not need to show your port number, so that is why we don't see it. Coming back to the point, so the creation part, the MongoDB part, and all those things are clear. All right, so before we move to code, just one more theory so that we don't confuse ourselves. So just recombine whatever we saw. How many of you know about this okay, why is this acting weird? Just a second, guys. Just a second, guys. I guess something is going on with this. Let me switch it on again. Okay. I guess it's back. So how many of you know about MVC architecture? Okay. So there is a architecture we perform: model, view, controller. Okay. So model, view, controller. View we already know. Okay. So HTML front end on all those things, the buttons and all those things, the form and on click and all those things. Okay. Whenever we do something, we send a network request. So where do we send the network request? So we basically be sending the network request to, let's say, our server, which is our controller or request handler, anything you can say. Okay, so either you say request handler or controller, so it's the same thing. We just saw in the code also. So let's say I'm requesting to some data. Okay, so data A, something is being requested. So this is a URL I'm requesting it. This data wants that I return all users, okay, all users present in my DB, okay, all user in DB, okay, in database. So views go to controller, sends a request. My controller sees that, okay, so this guy is trying to request for all users in the database. Now, it's the job of my controller to talk to database. Okay, so this is a database modeling. So models basically letting the database. So it sends a request to the database. So this says localhost 8000. Okay, so localhost 8000 request coming to 8000, and this is running on 270.17. So the request goes to there. So you see the port number why it is useful. My point is, controller sends a request to database. Hey, just query me all the users, and once it is done, it gets the response from the um, database. Okay. Once the controller has got the data, okay, again it sends back the response to view. So this is what MVC architecture is. So model, view, controller. My point is view can never contact to model, but this has changed. Okay, so we will talk about a type of database, Firebase by Google. Okay, can directly make a request from your front end. That is totally possible, and you do not need a server or a backend setup or database setup for working with Firebase. Okay, although there are some limitations, but yeah, we can do this. But coming back to MVC architecture, so this is how it works. View sends request to controller. Controller deal with the database operation, does request and the response thing, and finally the response is being sent to the front end. So this is how it works. Same thing we are trying to develop in our code also. Okay, so controller is already done. View we know, so we can either we can create HTML form, or there is a testing tool Postman. How many of you have installed Postman in the machine? Is it already there? Okay, so if not installed, I guess it's a good time that we install Postman, because we are going to use it to test our APIs. Okay, so Postman is an API testing tool which will help us test our APIs. Just a quick go through how to use Postman, okay, and where you can download it. So I guess that is super easy enough. Go to postman.com, simply say whatever be the like thing, Linux, Mac, or Windows. You can just check it out, and that is pretty much simple. Don't worry about how to going to use it, because we are going to use in class, and we'll see that. Okay, that is a good tool. Okay, and because and that also will help us in documentation. Why documentation? Some of the interviews I gave, they asked me for documentation also, mostly the backend interviews. So Postman is very helpful when we are preparing for interviews. So please go through it. Okay, and it is used in industries also. Coming back to the point, testing our API. API means testing our endpoint. So this is localhost 8000. Okay, so this is localhost 8000. So what is the API? So it says that get data. Let's use this localhost 8000. Localhost means on my same local machine, and I want to send a GET request to get data, where I'm getting a text, nothing else. It says working API. It means that I just pinged my server. Ping means sending a test request. Okay, so I just pinged my server and it's saying that it is working. Okay, and with courtesy, we have all the things ready over here that Express is going to give us. I can get the URL also. Okay, I can get the base URL also. Let's see that also. So base URL and everything is over there. Okay, so it's so clean. So we have this request, and request is converted into an object by Express itself, node itself, and we have these things. It means that if I send a request, there must be something printed in the console, and we can see that we are getting this get data base URL. Okay, why didn't I get base URL? Because this is the base URL. Okay, okay, we may check it out. What's wrong with this case? But URL is going to give us most of the things we need. Okay, so we can see that get slash data is the URL. We'll check the base URL. Don't worry. Mostly, I guess it is localhost 8000 itself, because that is the base. Coming back to point, controller views. It's time we talk about models. So I created a model last day, and let me create one more so that it would be a good revision. And how do we do it? So let's do in the same file itself. Okay, and I need to tell you guys something. I hope Mongoose database connection part is clear. Any doubts in this, guys? This is easy, right? Or should I
Yes,
type it again? It's okay, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, ठीक है. So this I will share the code. Don't worry. Okay. Otherwise, you can just check it out. It is straightforward in the documentation. Coming back to models, whenever you talk about NoSQL databases, okay, or any kind of databases, not about just about database. So you are going to store some data. So this MVC has M, which stands for model, and this model is something we need to take on focus. And why am I not able to use it? Yeah, it's here. So model basically, okay, student, or maybe to be more precise, since we are going to study authentication, see this users. Any organization, any website, when you say it requires user data, so there is something as schema or something, whatever it can be. Okay. Here we have username, or let's say name is asked, maybe email is asked, and finally the password is also. So these are the three fields. Most of the time we need to send it to the backend as a user from any website. Okay. My point is, uh, we need to establish, or we need to store users every time a user comes signups. Okay, so that data has to go into the database. So this has to go into the DB. Okay, but the DB says I need a schema, a template, which will, okay, I need a schema or template which will exactly define the fields. For example, if I talk about name, so name, so it needs the type. So what is type? So type will be string. Second field required, is the name required for the users. You see on the form validation, so I hope you have filled form and they say name is required, email is required. Obviously, like some of the fields are already exactly required. Okay, and then comes the email, same thing. Okay, and finally the, let's say, the password. Okay, so password, this is also required, and maybe the type is also string. So this data, this template has to be made before we start using our database. Okay, so that every time a user is created, this user is validated, this user's data is validated against this data. Okay, so जब भी कोई user create होगा, so it will try to validate these fields. It should be string, it should be required, मतलब कि this shouldn't be empty. it should be, let's say, unique also, so unique field also there, so name shouldn't be already present in the database. So how to like when this checks are performed, so when we have created a model, so this is the use of a schema. Are you guys getting the idea of a schema?
Yes, sir.
Quickly creating a schema. Okay, just a second. All right. So getting mongoose, next steps. Cons. Let's say we are creating a schema for users. So we'll say user schema. Schema. Okay. New objects. We are going to create a new object. New mongoose dot schema. And finally, so this is so mongoose helps us create a schema. And mongoose is also a package. We'll go into detail, but see this. So mongoose dot schema supply object. First thing first. Name. Okay. So I need a name for the user, and I need to say type. So the type should be a string. So the user type should be string. So the name type should be string. Is it required? So we need to say required. Okay, so this should be true. Now this is how a sample field look like. The key value pairs we are talking about. So this is the key, and value should be string, and it should be required. Required means you cannot leave it empty. Okay. Similarly, two more of them. Name is done. Email, password. So we'll say email field is also there. That is in a string. It is required, and it is also uniquely identified in my database. No two people can share an email. Password. The final. The password. It should be string. It should be required. Should I put unique over here in password?
No, sir, because it depends upon user.
Correct. Very correct. So two users can have same password, but they just not be knowing each other's. Okay, so makes sense. So this is how a schema looks like. I hope you guys are reading that. Now, when we talk about database and we talk about database operations, so reading, putting like reading, fetching data from database, writing, adding something to the entity, searching, querying some data, ठीक है, sorting, like sorting the data, ठीक है. While performing these operations are called as performing queries on database. We call them as query. In order to perform these queries, I need to create a model out of this schema, ठीक है. I need to create a model. Okay, I need to create a model from this schema. Means I need to tell mongoose that this schema is finalized, that this is finalized, please use it for validation purpose. How do I tell that part? See this. So const user equals to, we'll say mongoose dot model. Okay, first is the user, the second is the schema. So the second is mongoose.model. Okay, what this will do, we'll just see in a bit. Now I can use this user object for query purpose also. Okay, this was a simple object, but now I can use it for query purpose also. We will do the query part. Okay, so this is how a sample model file looks like. I hope this is clear, and you guys, if you have any doubt, you can just ask. Coming back, let's create our first user. So creating our first user, in order to create something, what method should I use? Should I use get, post, put? What should I use? I should use post, right? because I am going to send some data from the front end. Make sense, guys? uh, Guys, are you with me? Is this point clear? So why post? Because we are going to send some data to backend. Okay. So request, response, creating handlers as it was before, and this is how it works. So let's say that create user, okay, and basically we say that, so sending data in the request. Whatever data we send to backend now, like filling up a form or sending some objects to it over here, so we send that in a body. So this body comes into our request. Okay, so this body comes into the request object, and this object is we are going to use as the data for the user. Okay, now how do we do it? So let's see. Okay, since I have already created this user, so here it is how I use our models. I can simply say user dot, there is a function, we call it create. Okay, if you just focus, I just typed user and user was required from models user. Okay, so this was the model files and here's the user. So I exported and it got imported over here, and I'm using that user to create a user. Okay, this user, and I just need to supply something over here, so I can supply first bot. Okay, so this is the create method. Okay, next is the callback. Okay, and how do we do it? So it's a document, not test document. So we call it error and user. Okay. So user dot create is going to create an entity inside our database. Okay, and finally, once the user is successfully created, I can send this as a response. Okay, so I can say response dot status. So for 200 is for, why do you use 200 status code? For success response. Okay, use it for successful response. Okay, and I can finally say the data, and I can say user dot name. Okay, in the message I can say user successfully created. Yeah, so user successfully created. So this is how it works. All right, coming back to the point. So we have created something, create user. You're using user model, and there is a method create on the model. Okay, so this create method is due to this model we have created. Okay, the model we created, that is, this model is only giving us this create method. First, the complete request body. So I will send a name. Okay, so what does need to be sent? So name, email, and password, and this is how it will be creating. Second argument is the callback. Callback will basically have error and user. So if the successfully created an user, otherwise error. So we'll be getting this, and I should return something from here in case of error also. So I should say, let's say 400 401, maybe messages user not created. All right, coming back to the point. So create user. Let's try and test our APIs. Do we have the database created? One more thing, when you connect to database now, so after this URL, so there is this student db2. Okay, so this is the name of the database we want. Okay, so this is the name of database we want. So since if the database is already present, that is well and good. If it is not present, it will be, will it throw error or what should happen? If a database is present, it will connect or it will create a new database. Make sense, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, with this name itself. Okay, so this is the name which will database will be created if it is not present. If it is present, then well and good. Coming back to the point, let's test out create user API. So create user, I need name, email, and password. So let's send that with Postman. See this, guys, how to use Postman and why exactly I'm using Postman. Since we are learning backend, for every API I create, if I want to test a post, let's say post data, then I need to go to HTML, write a script, write HTML, create a form, input fields, put some data, and then hit the backend. Postman says, "We got it. You do not have to do something like this. Just type in the URL over here. Choose the method response. Go to body tab. Type your body here, and get the work done." So what to type in the body? So first thing first. So there are all those things here. So we just need this raw point over here. So you see this raw tab, click on raw and click JSON. I hope you guys are clear with JSON. What is JSON? What do you mean?
JavaScript object notation.
Correct, very correct. So it's simple JavaScript object, but with some rules, regulations, some validations. Okay, they say that there should be no trailing comma. Okay, so if there are three fields, so last field will not having comma. So you can see this. You cannot put something like this. So this is not correct. This will throw error. This should always be in quotes, double quotes. You can see that also. We cannot use functions and all those things. Anyways, so this is what it is. My point is, uh, email. Okay, so email is needed. Let's have a meaningful email. So I will say test@test.com. Email is required. Password because one more field was required. What was that?
Name.
Very
Name
correct. Yes, yes. So name was the field. So let's create name, and maybe I can say like let's say Iron Man. Okay, something like this. So name, email, and password. So these are the three fields. I'm sending a JSON data to my backend. Okay, let's hit send. So this is type the type the URL, select the type, method type in the data, hit send. It says user not created. Why it is not created? Let's debug that. I intentionally made this error so that we see. Point is, it is printing undefined. The point is, console is printing undefined. It means that request.body is not defined. How many of you know what's the issue here and what is the solution? Whenever I send some data from frontend now, I need to use a middleware. Okay, so that middleware is if you are sending data using a form, so there is a middleware URL encoded. What frontend does is whenever you submit a form using post method, okay, whenever you submit a form using post method, it encode the data in the request body. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is it's not directly, you cannot directly say request.body. There is nothing called as body on request. But you will ask, sir, why then you write request.body? Okay, a request has data inside it, that is for sure. All the data is in the request. I'm sure of that. Okay, if you print request, you will find all the data you are sending. But point is that is an encoded form, so you have to decode it. Okay, so what express URL encoded does, let's go to the site itself and check out. So express URL encoded. So why do we need exactly? Okay, it says that where's the thing. Okay, so you see this method post they are saying. Okay, so Dean and submitted. So okay, okay, not this. I'm searching for any good explanation. API reference. Okay, so this is JSON. We are going to use express.raw URL encoded. Okay, there's a built-in middleware function in Express. It passes incoming request with URL encoded payloads. Payload means body. Okay, body or payload, that's the same thing. Okay, so please do not get confused. And is based on body parser. So that is a kind of parser we have. We do not need it now, so no issues. Okay, a new body object, a new body object containing the parse data is populated on the request object after the middleware, okay, is used. It is saying that कि body body object does not exist. ठीक है, body object exist करती नहीं थी request पे, but when I use this middleware, it creates a body object and it append it to the request object. ठीक है, but that will only happen if I use this middleware. What are middlewares, guys? What do I mean by middleware? ठीक है, अच्छा, so HTML form को imitate करने के लिए the postman says that if you want HTML form kind of thing, choose this XWW form URL encoded. But if you want to be clean JSON person, then you can choose raw and choose JSON. Just send object. Why to like make life difficult? Okay, just kidding. So you can just choose any of them. Okay, my point is, um, okay. So where I was, what was I what I was asking? I was asking about middleware. What is middleware? Serious, guys. Middlewares, very important interview, for interview purpose also and for conceptual purpose also. Client is a client, so CLIENT. It is a server, the server. Okay, controller is written controller, so there's a controller. Okay, controller. Okay, this is a client. Okay, this sends a request to the server. Okay, a request is being sent to the server. Now this request may contain some data inside it, and let's say that this wants all user information in a particular organization. Suppose the organization is in hospital or in college or in a school, whatever it can be. It sends the request, okay, and you send the response back. Here is the game begins. If someone is sending a request to you, let's say that your organization asks, hey, you please do not share all response to anyone. What to do? You need to identify user identification, just a real world example, then we'll jump to code. Okay, just this is a best real world example of a middleware. User identification, before you it before the request reaches to the controller itself and you go to database and collect data, there is a function which will come between the request and the controller. Let's call it m1, middleware 1. Okay, the work of this middleware is to this work of middleware or function, okay, it's the same thing, but you should refer it to middleware, is to identify the user, the request user or client or whatever you want to say. Once verification, then only it will go to the controller and the request will go back. Similarly, there can be multiple middlewares. So M1, M2, M3. So there can be multiple middlewares before exactly we reach to the controller, the final controller. So all can perform different type of task. Maybe this second one is performing it is logging. Okay, see this is logging. This middleware is logging that person one has made 150 request in a single minute. Now he cannot make request. So how to do this? You can have a middleware for logging users data, or maybe just store the user information. So you can create a logger function. So this is the work of middleware. How you use it in the code, that is a separate concern. But Is the logic clear for middlewares? Any doubts?
No, sir.
See this. So let's jump to code. सिमिलरली दीज टू आर मिडिलवेयर ठीक है सो इससे पहले रिक्वेस्ट यहाँ पहुंचे रिक्वेस्ट रीचेस टू दीज टू मिडिलवेयर ठीक है एंड दे फिल दे क्रिएट अ बॉडी ऑब्जेक्ट एंड दे अपेंड टू रिक्वेस्ट नाउ व्हेन आई डू दिस ना ठीक है सो प्रीवियसली आई डिडंट डू एक्सप्रेस डॉट जेसन एक्सप्रेस डॉट यूआरएल कोड एनी वन ऑफ नीडेड ठीक है बेस्ड ऑन द टाइप ऑफ डेटा यू आर सेंडिंग इफ यू आर सेंडिंग यूआरएल कोडेड तो ये चाहिए इफ यू आर सेंडिंग जेसन डेटा तो ये चाहिए बेटर टू हैव बोथ you can send any type of data from postman if you want. Okay, so let's go over here. Okay, so creating a user, ठीक है? So creating a user, and let's see if it is good. So we can see that yes, the user has been created. So data is here and the message is here. This time, I successfully got the request.body printed thanks to express.json middleware, and my user object is also successfully created. Let's check our database. So I will go to MongoDB Compass and I will do a quick refresh. Student DB2. This is our database, right? Guys, and
Yes, sir.
this is our collection, and this is our user or client RN1. So name, email, and password. I hope the flow is clear. How to use a database.
Sir, for viewing robot it is also okay, right?
It is good, but like.
Because in
Mhm.
course they are using that only, like in module lecture.
Um, you can go, like you can choose anyone. Okay, both are like
Oh,
viewing. Okay, so
okay.
okay, two more things, guys. Before we jump to the next one, two more things are there. There is underscore ID and underscore V. What are these two? So underscore ID underscore V. So what are these two things?
ID is like, and if we go to cookies, we'll find this ID, sir.
Okay, so if you go to cookies, you will find this ID. That is super correct. Okay, but that is an application of the id. Okay, but thank you. Okay, so that is one application, good application of this. So basically whatever documents you see na is पूरे database में जितने documents हैं they have a unique field underscore id and this is unique among them. ठीक है, तो if you are querying for a unique data, so this is going to help you. Clear a point? ठीक है,
Yes, sir.
ऑटो क्रिएटेड है ठीक है, सो दिस इज ऑटोमेटिकली क्रिएट अंडरस्कोर वी इज द वर्जन की वर्जन मतलब कि वेन एवर यू वॉन्ट टू चेंज दिस डॉक्यूमेंट तो आप इस वर्जन को अपडेट कर सकते हो सो द यूजर नोज की लाइक जो भी डेटाबेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर है दे नो दैट दिस द सेकंड वर्जन ऑफ द डेटा और द थर्ड वर्जन ऑफ द डेटा. So this is how a sample document works. What we did writing to the database operation. Now we can do reading to the database operation. That is very very simple, straightforward. I can use this get data itself. Okay. What I need to do is simply I can copy this and paste it over here. Okay. Okay. We'll do some modification. No issues. Okay. So this is user dot create, which we do not need. There is something called as find. User dot find. Find is analogous to querying select star from user. This is a SQL statement. If you know a bit, if you know about SQL, that is well and good. So select a star from user. The same thing. It says find user based on all the users you want, and send the users. This time it is a plural. Okay, not a single data document. It will be sending all the documents, and you can say users fetched successfully. Users fetched successfully. All right, let's hit this. Get data from the postman. Postman, where is it? Where is it? Hitting the get first. Let's get the data. So I'm getting the data. You can see that data is an array. Inside array, this is an object. So this was what we were getting right in the database.
Yes, sir.
All right. Taking a step back. Why? How to know user dot find or user dot create? How do you know? Suppose that I ask you to update a user based on the user's email address. You have to update that user's let's say name. So what should be the idea? Where do you find these methods? That is why you guys should be going to something. Did I share the link with you? Mongoose link? Not yet. So Mongoose is the package we are using. It is a ODM. ODM means object,
Object data model.
correct? Object data modeling, object data mapper. Data is there. It is stored in some format in our database. But for simplicity, we JavaScript people say that, hey, I don't know like what format data is stored, but model it to an object, like model or map like a object and share it to me. So that is what the use of ODM. So object data mapper. For SQL databases, we have ORM. Okay. What is ORM? Object relational mapper. Those are relational databases. Acha, guys, do you know about the difference between SQL and no SQL databases? Just some quick differences we can go through. Okay, one thing. So just Dilip told that we have tables in SQL, we have key values documents in NoSQL. One of the point. Next point. Database is SQL is structured. Okay, have we use SQL for structured data, NoSQL for dynamic unstructured data. Okay, so dynamic unstructured data we use this. What is the difference next?
Structured query will be very good for large scale because they will be organized. But NoSQL is not that
Okay, okay.
large scale
Mm-hmm.
that huge setup.
Correct. For scaling, mostly we use SQL, right?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, makes sense. Uh, a relation is not there in NoSQL, but relation is there in,
NoSQL.
yeah. What is the
Yes,
relation?
sir. Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay, what is the relation?
Relation basically relating for suppose if I take student and code
Mm-hmm.
as a entity, there
Mm-hmm.
is a relation between student and code.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
but here
Mm-hmm.
just mapping
Mm-hmm.
key values.
Okay, makes sense. So this is an example. Employee table of a company, and here
Uh,
is an IT team table. Okay, so there are two table, employee table, and let's say IT team table. This employee record is having all the employees of the company. It doesn't matter the IT, marketing, or what. But when you come to IT team table, so it has all the employees which is an IT team. Now there's a
mm.
relation between them. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So how do we relate? So basically,
Using foreign key and primary.
correct. So there is a key which helps us to relate. So in one table it is the primary key. The other table it is
This
referred
is
as a foreign
foreign key
key. Okay. So this is possible. But there is no such thing existent
in NoSQL. Mogo.
NoSQL database. So let's go and check out how are we going to solve this problem. This is a problem. Obviously, this is a problem. For example, I have users. Now I want these users to have what we can say. What we can say. Taking something very Easy thing. Let's say they have favorite books. Let's say there's a library kind of thing. Okay, library system is there. Our application is library system. Users can have books. Okay, so I want to create one more collection. Okay, so and the same thing, following the same thing, creating a schema. I will say new mongoose dot schema, creating an object in over here. This is a name and yep. So the type, this is a quick one because we just already did this, right? Okay, so name is there. Is it required? Yes, it should be required because this is the only field which should be required. So required true. So name of the book should be there. Uh, may- Maybe the author is also required. So maybe you can say that type. It should be string and required should be true. Okay, this is one of the thing. Okay, so we have the const. Finally, what is the step? Creating.
Mongoose user schema model of the book schema
Okay. First string
book.
is the exactly collection name. Okay, and
Okay.
second is the schema.
So that collection name you didn't mention, like book. You will be mentioning this.
Uh, where to mention it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, I got your point. So I should mention that in the user, right?
Yes, sir, sir, sir.
I get it. Thank you. Okay, we are going to do that. Okay, so just that's a part. So this is done. Okay, you see this find and create method now. So user, I'm saying that user is a simple object. Okay, but you will
Yes.
say, sir, if it is a simple object, how do we have a find method on it? This is due to creating a model. So model
Model.
gives me all these methods. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mongoose. All are in Mongoose libraries, right? Like Mongoose package.
Yep. So this, it takes a simple schema and it add all the bunch of methods or the queries it had, and we just export it. Okay.
So can we export like that? Like even we are not using like const user, just like model.export equal to mongoose.model. But we
Huh.
cannot use the
Yeah.
user, no?
Yeah. You can just replace this, but ठीक like uh, I
Structured.
okay. We should have a good naming, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Structured way.
yeah. So
Like
it just following the conventions and all. Coming back. Now, users, we have some empty space over here. Let's fill it. Now we do not have the concept of foreign key, primary key, and all those things. But I want to store the data. So how can I do it? So what I can do here is, guys, I can store the ID of that book. Okay. Okay.
okay.
I know that I cannot store the book. I want that user should. So this user likes a book. He likes it very much. So how to add it? So let's say this library issues only one book per user. It can use, if you, for multiple ones it needs to be an array. But to keep things simple as of now, let's say that one user can have one book. Okay. First point, it should, this type is going to be an object ID. Secondly, ref parameter. Ref is for, why do we use ref?
Reference
Correct. Reference to what?
book what we are
Yep.
what we are getting. Okay.
Okay. So this model name is the same thing we are using in our. I hope this point is clear.
Yes.
All right. Third endpoint. I want the book to be assigned to user, but before that, let's create a book. Okay. So I will say that this is now getting very interesting and simple also. So create a book. Creating book is very very simple. We just created a student. Okay. So I will say request response console.log request dot body request.body, and we are sending some request in over here. Simple, pretty simple. We just did it. So book, what should I use to create a book?
So great.
Correct, great. Simply supply the request dot
Request
body.
dot body.
Okay. We should be basically supplying the object and the key value pair I need. But luckily, I'm sending only field which are required. Okay. So that is why request body is working. You can put check also. You can create new objects also. जिसमें से you can fetch the name and author. But ठीक है, we will take care that we only send the data which is required. ठीक है.
Okay.
First is error, second is book. In Node.js, there is a concept of error first callback. Okay. So whatever callbacks we write now, the first parameter is the
Error.
error. So
Error.
we, yeah, go on. So we call it error first callbacks. Okay. And let me copy this because this is repetitive. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay. Now user is not there, so I need the book.
Book.
Okay. Change the method. Just have a quick look at the response. Response is a status 200 and it is a JSON data. Okay. I hope you are already familiar with JSON now. For now, okay. So how to send JSON? This is how you send data, the JSON data. Mostly in the lectures, you will be finding that sir is like rendering HTML, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Like view.
Yeah, the EJS thing. So,
Yes, yes,
guys,
sir.
one more announcement that EJS, I would like you guys to have a look at it. Okay, we will be starting next week from React. Okay,
Okay, sir.
so because EJS is not asked in interviews and it is not being used now. Okay, but
It's a
if
bit difficult to type also, sir, because using that, what do you
yeah,
say?
I got you. So maybe if you have any issues, we can discuss in the session. But it will be better we go to React. Okay.
Okay,
Anyways, we
sir.
are going to learn it either today or tomorrow. So let's better implement both the things parallelly. Okay.
Okay.
So sending the response.json, creating a book. So let's quickly create this. So create book is the API. Two things needed are name and author, name and author. So let's say JK calling maybe okay. Let it anyways. It is it's good. So create book, post it. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. So this is already created. Let's check our MongoDB compass. Refresh. Where is it? Where is it? Okay. We have the books collection now, and I have this. Let me create the reference between them. Okay. So user and the schema. How to create the relation? Same using the post. Or since we are going to change the user data, it would be better I use user dot. I need to send a patch request. Okay. Patch request means user is already created. I want to assign book to book to the user instead of creating the complete user or complete book. So not going to say that book or something. We say assign book. It is a patch request, and I will say request comma response. What is patch request?
I don't have no idea, sir, because
Hmm.
I didn't use that, sir, because get post and
Hmm.
I'm
What is get? What is
familiar with this.
post?
Getting the when we'll get the request from the user, sir. Whatever we give, that will
Hmm.
be thrown in the system. Post means we will assign it, or we will.
Okay. So patch says that if the entity is already present, so no need to send a post request again. Okay. Get is totally out of context. Get is just to fetch data, no changes. Comes patch. Patch says already exist. Some fields have to be changed. Similarly, body user already exists. I just need to assign this body. That is what I'm going to do. Okay? Make sense? The patch request.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Already existing user. So how to find the already existing user? This is how it works. So user dot
Find by
find by
ID. ID.
makes sense. That is good. So and I okay. Do you know about the params?
Uh,
Okay,
I,
see
I
this.
heard about that, but
Okay,
not used that much.
okay.
Like
No issues, no issues. Let's see
common
it.
stuff.
Okay. Find by ID, find by ID, find by ID, and update it. Find by ID and update it. ठीक है. Find by ID and update. ठीक है. So this is the ID and the update part. Since patch is going to update it.
Update.
All right. At a point things become repetitive. Okay, so I hope you have got it, like getting this. This is a user I want to update. Okay, if error, so what I have. But if this is not the case, I need user dot book to be equals to, so this is the field, right? User dot book. Make sense?
Uh,
So user dot book, I want that, not params exactly. So I'll be sending body, I'll be sending the user ID in body, okay? And this will come in params. Request dot body dot user. Now it will say that request, why params I am using. We'll check it in a minute. So we'll say request dot book. Now, since user is not a just not a normal JavaScript object, okay, it is a model. I need to run a function. We call it save. The save method will tell that please save the model. The work is done because user is a MongoDB document. Make sense?
yes, sir.
This is like commitment. Okay? So you change some things in your file and you have to click on save. So
Okay.
change it, save it. I hope the context is clear.
Yes, sir.
Successfully assigned. All right. User. Okay, so we have the user, and this is what I have. So find by ID and await. Okay, to assign book and the book ID. This is a patch request. Let's send this. So this is a sign book. Okay. Acha. Where do I get this ID? Go to the database. Okay. Copy. Okay. Paste. Why am I using params? It will be clear in a minute. Okay. And where to get the user I am fetching from body, right?
Yes.
So just one more thing, the user the user is here, the body is here, and the request is a patch request. All right, let's send the request. It is a request going and it didn't complete because I found the user in over here, and so it will find the cat. Hmm. Why is it taking so much time? So we have this user. Okay. Request.param.book. Sign book, and this is the ID. Why is it failing? Okay. Let me check dot params dot book also. Find by ID and update. So this is find by ID. I'm giving it the ID, and I put a console inside this also. So console.log. That's it. User is. That means that user is found. So I'll say user. Okay. First thing first. Is the user found? It didn't get into the this thing itself, right? So user dot find by ID and update, and first part is the ID, and ID is there, update object is there. Oh, okay. Okay, this wasn't needed to be honest. One thing we missed. Sorry for that. The thing I'm missing is I need to supply the book here itself, not here. So it has to be book and request dot param dot book. Not here. It's not needed as of now, and that's it. Okay. So the second argument is itself the uh, patch we want to create, and that will do the job. Hitting it again. Okay. So I can say that book is successfully assigned. What I did. So second parameter is the update parameter. Okay. Let's check the user object. Refresh, and I have the book over. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is how we have updated. Just a last thing for today. Next point. What is the point is? My point is if I try to fetch user, I have only the ID, but I do not have the book. Are you getting the point? Like I do not have the data, right?
Yes, sir. So
There's
you're
the
telling basically what is that book name of?
Yeah. So how do I find that what is the book name? Because book that is useless for any user, right? How it will
Yes, sir.
know
Correct.
like what he will do with ID. Okay. So all right. Now here comes the second thing. How can I get the data from the ID? Any guesses? Okay. See this. So const user is equals to await user okay, user dot find. Okay. So I want to find all the users. Okay. Dot. So there's something called as populate and supply the path. When you say populate book now, it it takes the what do you say? It takes the field, and with the help of ID it populates to it object. Okay. All right, I can say user, and I guess that is good, but it failed because I need to write. Let's get data. Okay, one more thing. This is param, right? This is param. I used colon over here. Okay, colon over here. Okay, it means that this is dynamic value. Make sense? Okay, that is why I use this
That means it keeps on changing or what? The dynamic here thing.
dynamic. Like this book can be any value. For example,
Okay.
if you change the ID, acha, colon. So this is what colon denotes. Whatever be the colon, so it will say that hey, book can be any value. Okay, and you can find it into the params. Read about
Okay.
queries also. Okay, if I will write it down and I will discuss that in the next session. Okay, just last thing to populated values. So I have got the user with book also. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
And remember, this populated just for viewing data. ठीक है? You can see that कि यहाँ पे नहीं है कुछ भी. Okay. So this is what we had for database today, and I hope we are getting this point. Creating the new. Okay, where's the attendance sheet? All right, the leap is here. Toga is not here, not here, not here. Because was here, and Rajat was also here. All right, makes sense. Thank you so much. Let's meet in the next one. Okay, bye.
Okay, sir. Thank you.